You're listening to The Conversation with Model Mind AI, a weekly check-in with Angela Schultz and Lauren Horsager on how to lead through change, stay curious, and get AI ready.
Welcome to The Conversation, a podcast from Model Mind AI. Today I'm excited because we're starting a new series specifically focused on upskilling in the workforce in the age of AI. And you may notice that Lauren is not here today. I have a special guest, Dr. Elizabeth M. Adams, who is the Chief Engagement Officer of the Minnesota Responsible AI Institute. Welcome, Dr. Elizabeth Adams.
Thank you so much, Angela. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm really excited for this conversation.
Well, I am thrilled to have you here. I actually met you through some events in the metro area. That I got to do a shout out to the Women Leading in Technology. They have been doing great work kind of bringing us together and allowing space for us to have a conversation. So it's great to join you again. And I was doing of course, I come from the world of education, so I had to do my homework last night, and I was overwhelmed by what you had accomplished. Specifically, I saw some of the awards that you had recently been awarded, and I love the name of it, the Thought Leadership and AI Award. Like that right there, what a great honor. But what I'm most interested in is I saw that you had written a series of children's books, which I'm always trying to find the human connection when using AI and kind of promoting that. So I love that you lean into that human component. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, let me just say hello again. Super excited to be here and to be here for this conversation. I'm thrilled about whatever it is that we engage in. So, yes, I'm the author of 4 children's books. 2 of them are in hardcover. And I developed these books during 2020 when we were all inside, and children weren't able to get to the library, and caregivers weren't able to get books that I felt might represent a different view, a different perspective for the children's lives. And 2 of the books that are in hardcover, one is called Little AI and Petey, and it talks about a boy who meets a robot who then has a series of interactions, and parents get involved to make sure that the robot is safe for the child to play with. So that's a really great story for caregivers and parents to teach their children about what safe technology might look like. The other one is called Little Miss Minnesota and Her 6 Brothers. So back in the day, I was participating in the Little Miss Minnesota pageant. And so I have 6 brothers. And so this book is really about a loving relationship between siblings. Each page is a word that I give my brother, something like studious or adventurous. And then students get to learn what those words are and also understand that there are very happy families out there and siblings can play and engage together. So, yeah, so it's been about 5 years. The books are available online in 40 different stores across the globe. And I've just been really excited about the momentum. I spent some time in Savannah last year speaking to over 100 students about reading and about books. And so you mentioned the human connection. That is a big part of my own personal and leadership philosophy, is that whatever I touch, I need to make sure that I understand how humans are impacted in the work that I do.
And I think that's one thing that drew me to you is oftentimes when people are kind of driven by technology and all knowing of technology, they can lose that balance, right? And so much of what you do is people focused, and that really drew me to you. I guess I'm more curious about what made you lean into technology? Because I myself have only started really diving into AI probably around 2022. It became my new favorite thing. And you have a whole history of AI and technology. So what was that catalyst? What made you
Ah,
even lean into it?
that's a really good question. So many years ago, as a teenager, I was always interested in how things worked. And I had a internship at 3M for 2 summers, and I got to make nails with a CAD/CAM machine. So I'm dating myself. So it was a long time ago. But I was
Yeah.
very fascinated with the fact that you're taking this computer, you are taking your architectural designs, and then something comes out on the other side. And that was fascinating to me. And so I knew at that moment that I wanted to explore that further, but I had also had a job in accounting. I was at Best Buy many years ago, and I'd love to see how they were bringing in technology, how they were setting up the stores. What was that like? And so I wanted to just do more of that. And so it wasn't until a few years later that I actually got into the technology space when I started at Nextel in Washington, D.C. So I'd moved from Minnesota to Washington, D.C., started at Nextel, and that's when things took off. I got the space to lead, the space to learn about how employees engage with the work that they do, what that looks like. But it was just a really good opportunity because Nextel at the time was more of an entrepreneurial company. It was very nimble, very agile, and moving very quickly. And so you had to keep up with the pace of that. And I just fell in love with that type of environment way back then.
Yes. Well, I agree. I agree with the creativity, the problem-solving component that technology kind of leans into is also one of my favorite. I always say, as a kid, I saw a button, I pushed a button. So technology to me, there's always a button I can push. Like there's always
Hmm.
something new to learn, and I love the progression and kind of being along for the
Hmm.
ride. Part of what we do in classes I talk about the wave of AI coming. And so my
Mm.
purpose is to help you learn to surf. In
Well,
wherever
I
you
love
go,
that.
whatever you do, it's so you're not fighting with it and there's an understanding of the process, but also you need to be taken along for the ride, right? Because
Yes.
it is coming, ready or not, it's here. And so actually that brings me to a really good point. So you mentioned technology. I would love to dial in specifically to AI. And I want
Hmm.
to ask you a series of three questions to kind of see the good, bad, um, what AI can do, what it can't do, what it should do, what it shouldn't do. I kind of like to define some boundaries. And so through your perspective, I want to ask you the rose, the thorn, and the bud. And what I mean by
Okay.
that is rose is what do you feel is most promising about AI right now? The thorn is some of the things you have concerns about, challenges, risks, and then the bud is what's something that in the future you're looking forward to specifically using AI? So let's start with Rose. Let's start with the good news.
Yeah, so thank you for framing it that way. I think that's really interesting way to frame it. So from my perspective, I work with a lot of people and I work with organizations. And when I say people, it could be veterans, it could be seniors, it could be children, it could be college students, it could be high school students. I work across domains and industries and across teams. So, from my perspective, it's all about the people and what I'm seeing people do. One of the good things, or the good that I'm seeing with AI, is that it's democratizing access for people across the world, and more specifically here in Minnesota. People who may never have thought that technology was something for them, they're able to leverage AI in many different ways. So, as I mentioned, seniors. I worked with seniors to create recipes and poems that they want to put package together for their loved
Mm-hmm.
ones. And I met with veterans who want to understand what might be happening in their world. And so they can ask questions and use some prompts. They also can create stories of their experiences for their families. When I work with high school students, many of them are interested in salaries around AI and what roles. And so I've been working with them on what skill stacking is in the age
Mm-hmm.
of AI, how to leverage their skills. And so college students they're still wondering about the ethics of AI. And so we're able to have these conversations about some of the ways that AI might be helping to save lives, or it might be improving a work experience for someone or a home experience for
Mm-hmm.
someone. So
Mm-hmm.
we look at many different use cases. From the thorn, obviously that's kind of how I started my career in AI, was really identifying and trying to understand why there were biases in certain AI surveillance technologies. And I was concerned about that because if those technologies would be used to govern society, then there'd be a whole group of people who could be harmed, who could be experiencing AI harm, which is a negative human experience as a result of the biased outputs of AI systems. And so there are many cases of that, from people who have been denied bail, people who've been denied mortgages, maybe their insurance rates are higher, maybe they were getting made predictions about their health care that were not relevant to their particular situation. So we can look across the board and see that there are tons of different cases, and that is how I started, and that's why I have a Responsible AI Institute, why I founded the Minnesota
Yes.
Responsible AI Institute. And then the bud. When I think about people again, I just want to make sure that as many people are informed about responsible AI. And so what that looks like to them. So I'm in the business, I'm in the care business. I care about how AI is designed, developed. I care about the people that have access to it. I care about how they're able to leverage it. I care about workforce development. Can they upskill, reskill? And so I'm encouraged by being in the care business that AI will allow us to reach more people and see more people and their voices contributing to this powerful technology, but stewarding it with care.
It's
So,
interesting that you
yeah.
say that. I couldn't agree more. I feel like I never got an invitation to the cool kid table when it came to technology. I actually have, I come from a non-technical background. I come from the world of academia. And so, so much of this was kind of out of my wheelhouse.
Mm,
And now over the last, I mean, within the last couple years, I now have access to whether it be knowledge or
mhm.
capabilities. I just built my first AI agent this week,
Ah,
which I was
okay.
excited about. So I do feel like part of my love of what I do is basically inviting people to the table and to
Yes.
acquire those skills. And the range of people in which I work with is incredible. Sometimes I have to help people connect to the internet before class starts, right? So they have no
Mm,
skill sets, but to be able to empower them and to use AI to the point where it becomes your voice, your thoughts, your ideas. I think that tipping point for me is at first they're using it to complete tasks or like a Google search engine, but
mhm.
once they start collaborating with AI, that's when I get excited because they start to value their own domain knowledge and what they're bringing to the
Absolutely.
table, which is really excited. And I think you
Yeah.
bring up a good point. I mean, the range of people of which you just spoke about,
Yes.
um, in education we have a term. I always try to make my classes or my conversations low floor but high ceiling,
Mm,
meaning it's approachable to everyone. You can start somewhere. Everybody can
mhm.
start somewhere. It's my parents' new favorite technology is ChatGPT. My mom finally got a paid account, so she stopped calling me when she ran out of queries. But um, um, anybody can really join in. But then the high ceiling is like, boy, I just created an AI agent. Like I could never have done
Yes.
that 6 months ago. And so I think if you're out there and if you're listening to this, you don't have to be a software developer. I don't know code. It's really all you need to have is kind of a human experience to bring to the
Yeah.
table, which is
Mhm.
which
I
is
love that, which we
yeah.
all have.
Right, right. We've all got a
Yes.
story to tell and we all have a skill set. So thank you for sharing your rose and your
Yeah.
thorn and your bud. Now, because this podcast is specifically focusing on kind of upskilling and how AI is impacting the workplace right now, I think you're the perfect person to answer these two questions. But I
Okay.
want to break it down into two perspectives. I want to think about what are you hearing and seeing from the employer as well as some of the employees. So I'll frame this question for you. Um, we'll start with the employer first. So for many leaders, it's like AI feels like adding a new engine to your plane, but you're already in flight, right? It feels almost impossible to kind of um, ebb and flow and adopt this new technology, which we all know is important, but it's difficult to pause and recalibrate, if you will. Do you want to speak to how this is affecting the culture of the companies, but also how to lead in the
Yeah.
time of AI?
So let me start by saying my doctorate is in leadership of responsible AI. So I spent 3 years immersed in working with organizations and employees to understand how some organizations were either advancing with responsible AI and how some organizations were stalling. And so I looked at leaders and I looked at employees or employees who were leading teams or individual contributors. And so my whole frameworks that I developed were based on this concept of how employees and leaders were managing responsible AI. And at the Minnesota Responsible AI Institute, excuse me, we have a number of frameworks that allow leaders and employees to kind of pause and think very differently about AI integration and organizational readiness. So we have a suite of those. So I just wanted to put that out there. So here's what I learned and what I'm learning. So from my empirical research, what I learned about leaders is yes, they have OKRs and KPIs, and then they have AI, and now they have a new AI employee that they might need to manage. And so they're feeling kind of frazzled. Like, what does this mean for our world? And for those organizations where it's stalled, there really wasn't a vision for why AI was even in the organization, or maybe the vision stopped at the C-suite and it wasn't cascaded across the rest of the organization. So they're really trying to figure this out on their own while leading teams. And so that was part of the challenge that I saw. There were not enough pathways for leaders to participate in AI training, leadership development training. Now, like I said, you're leading with a new AI agent workforce. And so what does all of that mean? And so leaders were looking for ways to gain new leadership skills, but also a pathway in their organizations, similar to what employees were thinking about. And if I could just go on to the employees as well, if you're interested in that.
Yes, go ahead.
So when I met with the employees at all various different levels, what I understood, what became crystal clear, is that in many of the organizations that were stalling, AI or the rollout of AI was really managed from a technical perspective.
Mm,
And that everyone who was a non-technical employee that maybe was customer care, accounting, product management, finance, they seemed to be the afterthought. And so they were
yes.
playing catch up. They didn't know what their path was either. And so for those organizations that were doing it very well, across the board, employees at any level could communicate what the vision was. They knew who was ultimately accountable for how the AI systems performed, even though it was a shared leadership practice.
Hmm.
There was also strong governance, and there were also pathways for them to participate in shaping the future of AI. So that might have been a hackathon, that might have been a center of excellence that they could start,
Hmm.
that might have been participating in developing their AI policies or governance, might be role rotation, or it might be a challenge that was thrown to an employee resource group or a business resource group. So for those organizations that were advancing, their employees could clearly say who was doing what, and they felt like they could contribute and they felt like their voice mattered. Because many of those employees were experimenting with AI outside of work. So they had insights, or they were concerned about what was happening with their children or family or things in their community. So they had all of this knowledge, but no place to place it for those organizations that were stalling. So I speak to organizations about the findings. We take them through the workshops. What is preventing them, depending on where they are in their AI journey? We are happy to go in and work with just the leaders or employees and kind of unpack what some of these challenges might be very much at the start. So we're
Mm,
not so much interested or involved in the AI design and development. We're more concerned with the employee experience as a result of this new thing showing
hmm.
up in their world. and what does that mean for them? And so so that's been my experience, and it's been fun and more joyful because I get to tap into the human experience, and I get to
Mhm.
understand their whys and their hopes and their optimisms, but also why they might want to press pause and what they might need to do first. So hopefully that gives you kind of like a range of what I'm hearing and experiencing, and the empirical research that I conducted over a 3-year period of time.
I am so glad to hear you say that you want to bring everybody along for the ride. And I think the other value for me in AI in the workplace is so often I'll be working for a company and they'll hand off a prepackaged new technology, right? And
Mm-hmm,
it's so hard to um, build momentum or engagement around something that is prepackaged and might align to your job, might not, right? So for
mm-hmm.
me, one thing I'm seeing more interest in now, because AI is so malleable, it's like handing somebody a piece of clay and they can
Yeah.
mold it into
Mm-hmm,
whatever they need it to best serve their position, their role, their industry, whatever it may be. So I find a lot of times I use the metaphor of renting a house or buying a house. Like
mm,
if you rent a house, you don't have as much um, interest in really taking care of it or making it better. But if you own a house, if you develop your own AI solutions, if you build your own solutions, and I don't mean the IT team, I
mm-hmm,
mean as a company, the marketing, the who's ever answering the phones, that type of thing. If they can personalize this to really meet the needs that they have. One of the activities we do in class, I stole from an NBA company. They have just a simple slip of paper that says it stinks that, and then you fill in the blank. And it's a way
mm,
to really find out from the company where those pain points are. And
mm-hmm,
that's where they start with the AI implementation, is to
mm-hmm,
really try to help people with what they're currently doing and kind of meet them where they're at,
mm-hmm.
which I think is really valuable. Just a side note, you mentioned some people are actually pursuing AI outside of their um, maybe the CEO's knowledge set. I've had many people come to class and say they're here on the down low because they want to learn. Maybe their leaders haven't quite caught up yet, but
Mm,
they want to be along. And maybe I think a big part of too is just understanding it. Sometimes AI can be really overhyped and
mm-hmm,
oversold
mm-hmm.
as kind of a cure-all. And so finding that realistic answer of what it
Yeah.
is and what it can do to better their work experience. I will say I'm a happier employer having a ChatGPT account. I'm
Mm,
less frustrated. I can
mm-hmm.
find my own solutions. I feel like it enhances my experience. So just something to consider as an employer or an employee. Are you a big fan of using AI yourself, specifically generative AI, say ChatGPT, Copilot? Is that something you enjoy using?
Yeah, I will say absolutely. It saved me as a business owner lots of hours of time in terms of ideating or preparing for something. And so, but to become a user of it, a good user of it, and to teach, I have to use it, right? To teach people
Mhm,
how to think about using AI responsibly, I need to use the tools. And so, Copilot is something that I use daily. It's something that I don't necessarily teach on Copilot, but I
mhm.
will allow students or whoever participants to find their own generative AI tool, and we'll go through a series of immersive exercises to get them a little bit more comfortable. But just like you said, just as there are pros, there are cons. And so one of the things that I do appreciate about Copilot is the thumbs up, thumbs down, and then the opportunity to curate what it is that I might need to improve. And so my whole TEDx talk was about generative AI through Copilot, where I received some images that were not really appropriate
Mhm.
for the particular prompt. And so again, I appreciated the opportunity to state why that wasn't appropriate, but I don't know if there's any AI system that's going to be perfect. And so that's why we need to have the responsible AI practices, the governance, and the guardrails that allow us to continue to innovate quickly with less
Mhm.
harm and reduced risk to society.
Agreed. And I think you touched on the image generation specifically. That's where I notice it's almost like holding a mirror up to society a bit.
Hmm.
And so I do see the image generation is definitely a point of bias. From times we've found ways in class to kind of um, reshape it and redefine it with
Hmm.
our prompting, but that initial prompt sometimes is a bit shocking. Um, so
Yes.
it so we're almost to the end of our conversation, but just like my when I use ChatGPT, before I walk away from a project or a conversation, I always pause to kind of ask ChatGPT, what am I not thinking about? What question haven't I asked? I don't want to leave anything on the table. So I'm going to ask you the same question. It's kind of part of my process now. Is there a question that I didn't ask that I should have, or something
Hmm.
that I missed out on that I didn't even consider valuable or important to this conversation?
Well, I think all the questions were valuable, so thank you for that. I thought it was a very engaging conversation. But one of the things that I think about often, no matter where I go, is who do we want to be outside of AI? And then how might AI help us amplify that? And what I mean by that is, how do we want to live in a world where possibly we see humans thriving, where everyone has food that they need, everyone has quality education, everyone has quality housing? We can live in a society where there's much more joy. And how might we use AI to help us get there in whatever that means for every individual? So that's really my where I'm going and growing as a leader, is that the tool is great, but I know that I want to be the best person that I can be. I want to be the best leader that I can be. And I also want to center joy. I think we need joy back
Mm.
into our lives. And so, what I would say is, who do we want to be? How can we center joy? And then, how can we use AI to help us get there? Because guess what, Angela? If you are leading a joyful life and you're using AI, and I'm leading a joyful life and I'm using AI, can you imagine how much fun we would have together?
Yes,
Right.
yes. And we would
If
get a
we
lot
just set
done
their
too.
joy, yeah, we're happier, our families are good. And so that's what I would say, is that I know that people are faced with a lot of OKRs and KPIs and business metrics and requirements, but I hope that in their downtime, they can use it to find ways, maybe ask it to create a game for you and your family to do over dinner or with friends at the library. I don't know, right? And these are some of the things that I talk to students about who are just beginning their leadership experience, is use it to find a way to stack your skills, your passions, the things that you're curious about, and the things that you're good at, to help propel you into a life that's worthy of you living. And so, yeah, so that's it.
I love that. I really see you saying the human first component of this. And I often ask people, I'm like, how do you measure your ROI? Right? That's an interesting question to ask a leader, what they value. It immediately shows what they value in their company. And that then kind of is the focal point. That's what leads you into the next steps, whatever you value. You have brought so much joy to me, even in just in our few engagements. I also want to shout out your LinkedIn content also brings me joy. There's just a
Oh,
beauty
thank
to it
you.
and a positivity. And I really appreciate kind of that perspective, because yes, there, just like anything, there's going to be pros and cons, but you're really showing what's possible in a very positive way. And I really appreciate that about you.
Thank
It
you.
brings us to at the end of every conversation podcast. I always share with our listeners a prompt of the week.
Mm.
Usually it's meant to really show what's possible with AI, both what it can't do and what it can do. I like to kind of break it so I know what it's possible. But rather than me sharing a prompt this week, I actually thought I would ask you to share maybe either the first prompt you ever used
Oh.
in a generative AI or the last. And if that doesn't work for you, what about just your go-to favorite prompt of all time? You can do one,
Yeah.
two, or all three. Your
My
choice.
very first prompt was when OpenAI first came out. I can't remember November of whatever it was. And I
Hmm.
asked for it to create an image in the likeness of Serena Williams. I
Oh,
think she was doing something at that time, right
sure.
before she retired, or maybe it was she was had just retired. And so I was incredibly impressed. And it was that as well as something around the Minnesota Vikings. So I was just blown away. So those were my first two prompts. And that's before it was doing text and code and music. It was just images. And
Right.
then recently, I'll say the last, not a recent prompt again, I love helping students, was I asked them, and it was a prompt that I used in one for them, to ask generative AI based on what they like, what they were curious about, what they were good at, how might those skills be stacked, and what generative AI roles might be good for them.
Yes.
And and so once we got past that, then we asked it to create a personal statement for them, some like a 30-second speech, 30-second topic, like two sentences. And when I tell you they had never read the positive pieces back to themselves in front of their peers. So to hear them
Yes.
say, I'm really good at curiosity because X, Y, and Z, because I like photography or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so therefore I'm happy to be doing such and such. It's almost as if they were standing next to a CEO in an
Right.
elevator. That experience was so enriching for me. I got tears in my eyes as they were reading it out and being proud and sharing with their peers. They hadn't had that kind of exercise before. So we think about the what it does, how well it
Right.
does. It can create these wonderful experiences for people to see themselves differently than maybe the world that they're in.
I love that story. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. It gives them the words and it models this behavior for them like it and even just giving them a starting point, right? Sometimes that's
Yes.
all we need is that first step, that second step. Those are the hardest. So to
Yeah.
have somebody help you kind of curate these first couple steps in the right direction is really cool.
It
I
was so
love that.
powerful. It
Thank you.
was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, so I usually try to break down the prompt and really kind of extract some of its um, intentionality. And so by you sharing those, you did such a nice job of showing how AI can be used more thoughtfully. Um, so often I work with people and they're just having it kind of generate content. But this
Mm-hmm.
idea that it can really help you process or think through scenarios and kind of elevate your experience
Mm-hmm.
is fantastic. Well, good. Well, before we let you go, I want to keep following your story and following what you're doing. Your history and technology is really inspiring, and
Thank you.
I love that you're reaching out to not only Minnesota, you are all over the place. So I just wanted to give you
Yes,
an opportunity. You're a bit of an ambassador for Minnesota. I see you have your pin on today, and
I
it's
do.
it is everybody is going nuts over the Minnesota pin. So I just want to give you an opportunity. Where are you going? What are your next projects? What's on the docket for you?
Yes, so pretty soon I'll be going to Switzerland and Germany to speak with some universities there about the work that we're doing with the Minnesota Responsible AI Institute. So super excited about that. More of the details will come out later. And then I'm planning to go back to Umeå, Sweden for another visiting scholar appointment in May of next year, 2026. But for the rest of the year, I'm just kind of hanging out. The month of December here in the Twin Cities and doing everything I can to build momentum and to get international partners to come to Minnesota. So that's really the biggest thing that I'm working on. And you mentioned the pins. I do want to say that they have turned out to be like a dialogue pin. It's a
Yes.
way to have conversation about what's happening in the space of Minnesota, what we're thinking about from a responsible AI perspective, workforce development, sustainability, and how that leads to economic success. And so I didn't anticipate that. And so I actually had to contact the folks who make the pens and say, I need more, I need more. But I want them to be intentional. So not just passing them out like something you would get at a table, but really to start having a conversation about what it means for us in Minnesota to be thinking about responsible innovation and making sure that we're protecting the resources that we've come to depend on, our water, our fishing, agriculture, forestry, all of the great things that we have here in Minnesota. And so it's really about advancing the conversation. So yes,
That's
excited about
wonderful.
the pins.
Well, I am born and raised in Minnesota. So anytime I see the outline of our state and somebody doing good for us, I just want to say thank you for all Minnesotans for kind of taking on that position and taking on that dialogue. And I'm excited to hear, I hadn't thought about bringing people to Minnesota.
Mhm.
So that's going both
Yes.
directions is
It
exciting.
is.
Yeah.
So, and just one thing I'll let you know, I'm also a fifth generation Minnesotan. So my family has been here since the late 1800s.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, this connection, right? We have a lot that we can share, and we also have a lot that we can learn
Yeah.
from other organizations. And so, because of my time this year at the AI Policy Lab in Umeå, Sweden, at Umeå University, I loved their approach of bringing in visitors to learn and connect and think about AI in many different ways because all of us were coming with different perspectives from our countries as well as leadership philosophies. And I wanted to model that here. And so that's what I'm looking to do is to go talk to these universities about this 7-day leadership immersive idea that I have to bring them here around our state fair time. So it would be
Mm,
like a week of engagement, 2 days off. You can go to the fair, you can go to a museum, you can go fishing, you can go sailing, doesn't matter to me. But then we are connected with businesses and academia about how we're thinking about this. So it's a time to kind of detach from maybe your day to day, but still
yeah.
be engaged and see what other people are doing. So that's my hope is that we'll be able to gain some partnerships from this visit.
Yes, I think that is so important right now. People are starting to look around and ask that question. How are you applying AI? How are you using it?
Yeah.
Because there's some unknown, right?
Mhm.
Component because it's so different. And so being able to have those conversations. I noticed that you're bringing them here in the summer, which is probably a good choice rather
More
than
of the
dead of
fall.
winter.
More of the fall.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Good, good.
Yes. That's the
Well,
plan.
wonderful. Well, on on that note, it makes me think of too, the way I met you, just to kind of circle back,
Yeah.
is I met you at an event that called Women Leading in Technology. So
Mhm.
kind of on the in the same message as Dr. Elizabeth M. Adams bringing people to Minnesota. I want to invite anybody who's listening, if you're interested in coming to one of those events, I am happy to be your plus one and I can introduce you. I can't tell you the wonderful people that are working in Minnesota right now, specifically women in AI.
Mhm.
Is there is so many people out there that are looking to have conversations, share their experience. So join us for many of
Yes.
the women and technology events that are happening throughout the metro. And maybe I'll try to bring somebody from out of state next time and see if we
Oh,
can.
wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, yeah.
We should do that. We need to host some sort of a conference. Let's think about that or something. Oh my
I
gosh.
love that.
Yeah, we
Okay,
should.
maybe at the
All right.
next event we can hash it out.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And
Well,
thank you again.
yes, it has been a pure pleasure having this conversation. I feel so lucky to steal some of your time and share your message with our listeners. So I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing all of your insights. I want to dig a little deeper into your framework. So that's going to be my homework over the weekend.
Okay.
More to come, more to come. Thank you so much for joining us. And for more
Thank
episodes like
you.
this, you can go to modelmind.ai. I am Angela Schultz. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth M. Adams. And thank you for all the listeners. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for being part of the conversation with Model Mind AI. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and stay curious.